So before I start, I was backstage and I was getting ready for listening to what was going on, and I got a text. I got a text from the bat, and I had to read this to you because this is classic Tony. Because I wasn't sure I was going to start off the show today, but this is classic Tony because he went to Vegas for his 60th birthday, and he said he was going to go to Disney World, but his son wanted to go to Vegas, and I'm like, yeah, sure. Anyway, so he texts me. He texts me this today, but this is from last night. At Nobu, Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox just walked in. They walked right by us, sat across from us. She's making eyes at me, making me very uncomfortable. I mean, I'm with my wife, for crying out loud. Could you think of anything more Tony-like than just, classic Pat? He will never change. Anyway, we're super excited to have everybody here today, and I purposely been hiding out down in the basement. They have like this kind of funky basement. I'll be nice and say that. And I was kind of trying to listen, but kind of not trying to listen, so it doesn't influence me and stuff like that. But I put together a short presentation for you, and then we got a game coming up after that, which is fun. And man, it's crowded here, and it's dark. It's bright lights. So happy to be back out on the road. It's literally been 2.5 years. The last live show we did was in March of 2020, and I was doing a money show in Brooklyn, and it was right after my birthday, and I was flying out the next day, and I wasn't sure kind of what this whole pandemic thing was like. Remember, it was about March, right around March 9th, 2020, and I'm flying out, and I'm like, should I be flying out? Should I be speaking in public? Should I be going to this? And trying to put it all together, and really, having no clue that would be the last talk we did for 2.5 years. In fact, in March of 2020, I was convinced that in the summer of 2020, we'd be having our whole giant event in Chicago, that we had set up our Geeks on Parade, the whole tour, everything. And I was like, yeah, we'll be back. And it's been 2.5 years now, and this is the first live event, so excited to have you here. Thanks so much for coming by. This is very cool. So, for those of you that came from out of town, welcome to Chicago. It's an amazing city. I came out here 40 some odd years ago, 41 or 42 years ago, I don't even remember now, and I moved into this crazy neighborhood. I'm going to do a little of, this is a little of my little story of my own life here to start off with, and then we'll get into some stuff. But this is kind of between Wrigleyville and Lakeview and the DePaul neighborhood, and I had no idea. When you don't grow up somewhere, you have no idea where you are, you have no idea where to live. I've lived in this neighborhood now for 40 years, within walking distance of this theater. It's crazy. So I've lived, my last 2 houses were within 3 blocks of here. And then before that, and right now I live a couple blocks in the other direction. But basically, I've lived here for essentially 40 years around the corner from the Vicks. The first time I came to this theater, and again, I lived right down the street. The first time I came to this theater, Buddy Guy and Junior Wells were playing here. And I don't know how many people remember Buddy Guy and Junior Wells, but I was like, I grew up in the suburbs of New York City. We didn't have blues clubs, and came here, saw Buddy Guy and Junior Wells, walked back to my house, a couple blocks away from here, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the whole world. A year later, I saw Big Head Todd and the Monsters here, and it was like, probably came here a bunch of times over the years. I'm not 100% sure, but I asked when we came in today, is this the first time that there's been any kind of a financial show here? And they're like, yep, I think so. So we're doing something good. Around the corner, I've been going to Ann Souther's for 35 years at least, maybe even longer, I don't even remember. But so much so that I'm there at least 3 or 4 times a month. I'm pretty much there every Saturday. And if you have some time after the show and you want to grab a good breakfast and some huge cinnamon rolls, right around the corner, it's about 3 doors down. When I moved to Chicago, I didn't really know kind of where to live. And I ended up walking around this neighborhood, and there was an Enterprise car rental, which is still there, which is about three blocks south of here on the same street, right on Sheffield. And at the Enterprise car rental, there was a building next door to it, and that was for sale. And it was an old, burnt out, kind of a church, kind of storage facility. And I was looking around for some funky place to live, like that was like loft-like, and I bought this vacant building right down the street from here, 1010 West George, and I bought it for cash because I just started to make money as a trader, and I bought it for cash, and I didn't tell anybody. Well, the only person was really my wife, but I didn't tell her. So I just bought the building right down the street. So one day she goes, "What do you want to do tonight?" And I go, "I just want to show you something." So I took her down the street, and there was a little convenience store across the street, and I took a picture of it. That convenience store, as I'm taking her in the front door and unlocking the door, somebody robs the convenience store and with a gun in the air runs by us trying to open the door to the house, runs down the alley with the guy that owns the convenience store screaming, okay? And her and I are standing by the front door. And she looked at me like, it wasn't the greatest neighborhood, I agree back then, but it was like 40 years ago. So here's a picture. Me and her 35 years ago, or maybe more, 1987 or something like that. But this is after we built the place out. She says, "Can we please leave? I don't want to be here." I said to her, "Sure, we can leave, but you're going to need to get used to this place." And she's like, now I should explain, when I took her inside, there were people living in there. There were squatters. So there's a guy running down the alley with a gun, and there's squatters living in this building. And she looked at me, she's like, "What are you doing? Why are you showing me this place?" And I'm like, "'Cause," she goes, "Oh, no, we are not living here." And I'm like, "Well, I already bought it." The purpose for telling you this is because there's a certain mentality. I'm like, "You're gonna have to get used to this." She's like, "Absolutely no chance. And so a year later, we built it out and we moved in. And again, the neighborhood was a little rocky, whatever, but it was, like I said, it's literally 3 blocks down the street. We realized after we moved in, hey, you know what? We're next to an Enterprise car rental, so we have no parking. And we have no yard, we have no parking, we're gonna have kids. So we said, okay, we gotta sell this place. But it was a strange place and nobody would buy it. Eventually, it was an amazing house, but nobody would buy it. So eventually, we found a buyer. The buyer was R. Kelly. At the time, I had no idea who R. Kelly was. I think he had one hit, but he was making like a ridiculous amount of money. He committed about 250 years worth of crimes in that house. Enough said. But the purpose for this is that traders are not normal. Like it's okay not to be normal necessarily. You know, like lots of places have made a living from not being normal. Austin, Texas built themselves an amazing city by just being weird, you know, same with Portland, Oregon and places like that. But traders, you know, it's okay. We're not normal. And the reason I'm telling this story is because we're just not normal. Traders can be crazy impulsive. Traders can be impatient, right? I mean, you know, all of the above. Not necessarily bad things, just the way we are. Traders are the best and the worst risk takers because of the impatience, because of the impulsiveness. But at the same time, they're willing to take risk. Traders can be incredibly brilliant one day. It happens. We're incredibly brilliant, geniuses, top of the world. And then the next day, complete dummies. And I think everybody in this room and everybody behind the stage and everybody listening, I mean, we've all experienced that and probably experienced that multiple times. We can shift between brilliant and stupid. It's incredible, man. We have that down pat. But the good part is we're not really bothered by it. We're actually encouraged by it. It actually motivates us. You know, one of the reasons that I'm headlining the Bad Trader Tour is because over the last 4 decades, I've bounced between brilliant and stupid more times than anybody else in the world. But I've learned a lot of crazy important things. And the most important thing that I've learned over the years is, and the reason we're here, is to do it yourself. Because one of the things that I've recognized, I'm going to show you this in a couple of seconds, just it's really hard to do stuff in life when you're counting on everybody else to deliver, certain things and certain returns, certain things, certain ideas, certain creativity, certain imagination, certain opportunities, all the above. So I thought I'd take you on just a little bit of a journey of some of the things that I've experienced over the years, because as I was learning to do it for myself, moving to Chicago trading and learning how to, do it for myself at that time, when I started to make money and I started to do things, I didn't really know what to do with everything. I come from a family where my mom's an art teacher, my dad was a civil rights attorney. They never made any money, which is fine because they were happy, smart, and they enjoyed their life. But I didn't come from an environment where I knew what to do as an investor. So I've had 40 years of trading, investing, and I thought it'd be fun to take you through a journey, because it is the Bad Trader Tour, of lots of bad trades. When I first started to make money on the floor, I really didn't know what to do with the money. Now, it's a high-class problem, I get it. But the first thing I did was I talked to one of my friends who seemed to be pretty intelligent. He said, hey, don't worry, my brother-in-law is this brilliant accountant, and he's got all these tax shelters, and we can start working on this. This is like 1980. This is like 40 years ago or 35 years ago, something in early 80s. So first thing I did was I invested in oil wells. Now that was really cool, except there was no oil wells. So my tax shelter was just writing a check to somebody, and then it was basically giving them the money. There was nothing there. But I was so smart that I backed up the oil well investment with gas wells. There were no gas wells either. The whole thing was just a joke. I decided after that, okay, they got me, but I'm going to invest in a mattress store because 2/3 of your body weight's in the center third of the mattress. That makes total sense to me. We're going to dominate the mattress business. Not so much. They went out of business. We invested in other traders, lots of them. Some were successful, some weren't, but overall, when you're not a great teacher, and back then we really weren't great teachers, we used to have a saying, the way we taught new traders how to trade, and some of them are in this room today, was, hey, just go out and make money. That's not, what am I supposed to do? Just make money. That's not a great teaching experience. So lots of other traders. So that didn't work, so we went out and built restaurants. That didn't work, as you can probably imagine. So I decided, okay, we'll go build some gold mines in Mali, Africa, which is outside of Timbuktu, and that should work, because gold's only $280 an ounce. That didn't work. I decided, okay, we're going to build an AI search engine because that makes a lot of sense, and machine learning, search engines, artificial intelligence, and that didn't work because you got to bet on people that know what they're doing, and I obviously bet on somebody that didn't know what he was doing. A cannabis exchange. We decided, okay, this is cool. We'll build an exchange where you can trade cannabis, basically hemp, and that business is going to explode, except the regulators didn't agree. We built online books for colleges. That makes total sense. College books are so expensive that we convert everything to online. It's got to be 100 times cheaper. That makes sense. That should work. They're out of business. Teaching kids to code. Oh my God, this was the most brilliant thing. They had a logo. They had a saying. Their tagline was, we're going to teach 1 billion kids to trade. I'm sorry, not trade. Teach 1 billion kids to code. And they're out of business. Investment properties. You can't lose with investment properties unless people don't pay rent or burn down the investment property. That didn't work. So we did build machine learning software and machine learning technology that we can embed in our platforms. That didn't work. Online education classes, and that seemed really easy to do, but that didn't work. Storage units are brilliant because storage units, how can you lose? You buy the property, somebody pays you rent every month, and then eventually you're on TV on some storage show, but that didn't work. Then we decided, okay, pizza by the pound. This I liked. Pizza by the pound. You just go in, you pick how much pizza by weight you want to buy, and you buy that. Well, that didn't work. So then I'm going to cut this a little short. My final effort was, all right, none of this stuff has worked, so let's try something completely different. So I backed a professional wrestler. That didn't work. And I bring this up because sometimes we don't really give ourselves enough credit for what we do really well. And we do a lot of things. And by the way, all these investments, none of these were insignificant investments. Like these aren't just like, I was throwing a few pennies here or there. These were all pretty significant investments, like more money than my parents ever made. This was the kind of thing. So it was like, man, this is a lesson. This is a really important lesson. A, bet on yourself, do it yourself, bet on yourself, and B, stick to your domain, stick to your skill set. I still make investments, but I recognize that with my track record, I better bet on myself. So, we always have a saying, and everything we do is basically do it yourself. Nothing comes easy. DIY investing, DIY everything, and just accept that. Here's the nothing comes easy part. So I was going through a bunch of old videos, and I was trying to decide, hey, let's talk about different topics today. So I was watching an old George Carlin video the other night, and he did the thing where, he says the 7 words you can't say on TV. You guys have seen that? Shit, piss, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to say everything else. But anyway, it's a funny bit. He did it like a zillion years ago. So I thought about this for a second, and I'm like, let's talk about the 7 ideologies really quickly of successful traders. Like what makes, what are the simple things that we can just repeat? 1, you're not smarter than everyone else. Nobody in this room is smarter than everybody else. Everybody's kind of the same. There's different variations, but we're all essentially the same. There are no tells. Like everybody thinks there's these tells. There are no tells. You can't double down. You can't add to it. You have to have a reasonable set of expectations. You can't lean on anyone, because thinking that you can lean on someone, that someone's going to save you or someone's going to protect you or someone's going to help you always, can't really do it. You need to be able to reduce basis. You constantly have to put yourself in where you have a higher probability, and you need to be indifferent to product, because listed products are essentially all priced the same and they're all traded the same. So you need to be indifferent to what they are. So I thought about this for a second and I said, okay, this makes sense. Smarts, tells, adds, expect, lean, basis, and indifference. Those are essentially those 7 crazy words that we can talk about ideology-wise just for trading, just to think about it. So there's always something we come back to that makes sense. So anyway, that's the classic fashion. So I thought about this for a second, and I went through and just kind of, as we're preparing for the show today and talking about, what are we going to talk about and things like that. And I thought about, I'm like, I've been doing this a really long time. And I thought about all my worst trades. And I thought about, and I tried to decide which ones do I want to talk about today, which experiences over the years. Like we had crazy trades where I thought I was trading, we thought we were trading IBM, but we're trading crude oil. Or I thought thought I was buying something and I was selling it, or I thought we were doing one thing and we were doing something else, or I thought something was going to happen and obviously something else happened, and hundreds of those. But then I thought about this for a second and I'm like, of all those, which ones make the most compelling story? But then we talk about that all the time. So over the past 4 decades, I've had lots of brutal losses, lots of heartbreakingly bad trades, and at the same time, some historically funny, hysterically funny tales to tell. In the process of doing all that, I realized we've been talking about that on air for the last 11 years. You guys have heard all my stories. Like we don't have anything left. I don't have any stories that I haven't told on air over the years, or that's still stuff that's happening. So we do it every single day. So I thought it'd be a little different. So I ripped up my notes to come and do this today and thought about what's kind of the common denominator of everybody's worst trait. What's the thing that, what's the thing that motivates us? What's the thing that drives us? What's the thing that makes us different? So I boiled it down to one simple thing. The worst thing we can do in life, and the worst thing we can do in almost every aspect of, it doesn't have to be just life, but business and entrepreneurship and everything that we do is not take risk. And I try to hammer this home, but I think about like my own life. I think about lots of other people that I've come across or that I've worked with over the years. And essentially it all comes down to, everything boils down to life's worst trade is not taking risk. The bad trade that everybody makes, and this real differentiator, because smarts, man, we're all pretty close. And ideologies and passion and desire, most people are pretty damn close. So it's just a function of taking risk or not taking risk. Done, filled, yes, or go for it, or let's do it, whatever it is, just essentially taking risk. Thus, I think the real definition of bad trader is defined by someone who doesn't take risk or isn't comfortable taking risk, or at least isn't open to some risk-taking, or even a step down, the ability to assess risk. So bad trader defines anyone who opts for safety and security over reasonable risk, not just on a one-off basis, but over extended periods of time in many different circumstances over extended years of your life. I thought about this, but I've helped to take a lot of people down over the years. Probably some people in this room, admittedly, we talk a lot. Who have I taken down in here? I'm sure there's a lot of you. At the same time, some of you have taken me down. I've been there. But the crazy thing is, we've also created tons of, I shouldn't say tons, but lots and lots of very successful people, lots of millionaires and multimillionaires and tens of whatever it becomes. So there's both sides of the spectrum. There's always going to be, when you take risk and you promote taking risk, there's always going to be a situation where you take people down. And there's going to be this other side to it where you're like, wow, I can't believe what the byproduct is, what we've actually created. And it's super cool, and it's worth taking that risk. The concept of bad trader is, and this is something I just thought about as far as conceptually, a bad trader in life accepts being very average. It's okay. And we've all seen way too many examples. So I put together some stuff. I know a brilliant mathematician who doesn't want to challenge convention because he likes safety. Okay? Brilliant. But doesn't want to go out on a limb, doesn't want to do something special, doesn't want to risk. I know a brilliant lawyer who doesn't want to risk giving up the partnership track that they're on to do something outside of the box. I know a brilliant CEO that's scared to make deals because doesn't want to lose his job. I know a brilliant software developer who doesn't want to risk losing his 401k because he's safe. Yet brilliant, could change the world. Way smarter than myself or anybody that we know. Crazy stuff. Last week, I get a million emails. And for those of you who know me, I answer a gazillion emails. And last week, I got 2 really interesting emails that I just want to tell you about. And both emails asked me, hey, Tom, do you have time to talk? I said, sure, I got time to talk. I have a rule. I always make time because you never know where opportunities, no matter who it is, and a lot of you have been there with me, I always make time to talk to everybody. That's my life. So the first call was from some entrepreneur, somebody I did not know. He was based out of Singapore, and he called me with this concept. He's a software developer, called me with this concept, and he asked me if he could show me some trading software that he built. And I said, sure. The second call was from a CEO who ran this about $1 billion company, and he asked me if I had time to talk. Now, it's not important what the conversations were about. What's interesting about this is that in both cases, I said, sure, I have time to talk. And both people who had no idea, whatever, they reacted like I was crazy because I would talk to them about their ideas. Just think about that for a second. Usually, most people when you say you're willing to listen to what somebody else's idea about whatever it is, they look at you now like you're crazy, because that just doesn't happen. They said to me, nobody says yes anymore. Nobody agrees to talk to us. It's amazing. How come you agree? Now, I'm in that same boat because I try to talk to people all the time and they go, no, Tom, we're not going to talk to you. So when I hear stories, like last week, we heard stories of a couple of companies in the industry, in the crypto space, Voyager, Celsius, 3 Arrows, and basically they all blew up, right? I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with those 3 stories, but they're either crypto exchanges or crypto hedge funds or whatever, but all 3 of them blew up. All 3 of them were pretty significant size too, hundreds of millions to billions of dollars, okay? 3 Hours, Celsius, and Voyager, all 3 blew up. And when you hear those stories, like the good trader, bad trader side to me immediately pops up. It's like, how do you feel about that? Like risk takers like myself, we feel really bad. Like when I see a company like Voyager blow up or Celsius blow up or 3 Hours blow up, I don't know anything about those companies. I have no money invested in them. I don't know anything. I don't have an account with them or any of that kind of stuff. But I just feel bad as a risk taker because I don't like other risk takers to blow up. If you're risk averse or you're the bad trader, you feel happy because you're like, I missed that trade. I feel happy. I didn't invest there. I mean, I knew that was a crappy space to be in. You just feel good. If you're risk averse, you walk away from situations where there's opportunity. If you are a risk taker, the first thing that pops in your head is you want to pick through the ruins. Like everything that goes through my head is all I wanted to do was pick through the ruins. I don't want the employees. I don't want this, that. I just want to pick through the ruins. Whatever's there, I want to see if we can turn it into something. It needs to be opportunistic for me. So I'm going to finish up with something here, which is just something that how are we doing time? So we're good. My dad was just telling me this. And again, my dad was a civil rights attorney who was not into investing stocks or had no money or any of that kind of stuff. Brilliant man. And he said to me, the most important thing for you to do ever is just know who you are. Like, and if you want to be, because I used to tell, Dad, I golf for money, I gamble, I trade, I do all this stuff. He's like, I hate everything you do. But he goes, at least you seem to know who you are. And he goes, if you want to be a risk taker, you want to be whatever you are, you should know who you are. So I think the most important tickle here is the whole boot trader thing and the whole bad trader thing is good traders and good risk takers at least have an opportunity to do something really special. And the other side to that is you don't. And you expect other people to do it for you. I'm all about do it yourself. Everything we ever built is retail, is consumer, and it's all about do it yourself. So thanks for coming today.